Who still remembers this great scene from Disney's masterpiece, Dinosaurs? Unlike ordinary computer-animated films, the scenes were not created entirely in the computer, but are a combination of real nature footage and computer animation, sometimes augmented by filmed physical special effects, such as real explosion. But today it's not about the film, but about the terrifying antagonist, the Carnotaurus. Watch the video until the end, because we will tell you a fact about the Carnotaurus that you would not have expected. Enjoy the video. Carnotaurus. The carnivorous bull was an extraordinary dinosaur in many respects. Although it did not have the impressive body dimensions of a T-Rex or Giganotosaurus, it was more dangerous to some prey than the giants because Carnotaurus was one of the fastest theropods that ever existed. Some call it the cheetah of the Cretaceous. And this comparison is not as far-fetched as one might think. Why the Carnotaurus was so fast and how it lived we will have a closer look in this video. Everything we know about this theropod comes from a single skeleton. It is located in Argentina in the province of Chubut. The fossil was recovered in 1984 during a terrestrial expedition that studied terrestrial vertebrates of South America from the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods. Unfortunately, the skeleton was not quite complete, because weathering destroyed the lower parts of the legs as well as the rear part of the tail. However, there was enough left to describe a new species and far more than in many other species of which we sometimes have only a few bones. Carnotaurus lived during the Upper Cretaceous from 72 million years ago to 69.9 million years ago. So this species died out a few million years before the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary, which marks the end of the age of the dinosaurs. The skeleton is from an adult Carnotaurus, which can be deduced from the degree of fusion of the bone sutures of the cranium. The length of the dinosaur could be estimated well despite a missing part of the tail. Experts estimate a total length of 8 to 9 meters. Thus, the carnivorous bull was one of the largest representatives of its group Abelisauridae. The estimation of the weight is a little bit more different, depending on the method used. Low estimates made on the basis of the femur bone are 1.35 tons. Calculations using other methods, on the other hand, gave a weight of 1.5 to just over 2 tons. This meant that Carnotaurus had the same weight as an average or a large hippopotamus, but distributed over twice the length and twice the height. And this, of course, results in a slender body, especially the legs stand out, which were long and thin. A characteristic that many fast animals share, like e.g. also the cheetahs with which the Carnotaurus is sometimes compared. With its long legs, the Carnotaurus was able to reach a speed of 56 kilometers per hour, according to studies. This is only half as fast as a cheetah but twice as fast as a T-Rex and still much faster than a velociraptor and almost all other dinosaurs. The reason for this is the disproportionately large caudofemoralis muscle. This muscle pulls the thigh bone backward when contracted and was the most important locomotor muscle in dinosaurs. In contrast to the legs, however, the arms of the forearm had only 25% of the length of the upper arm and the hands were very deformed. In contrast to other dinosaurs like the T-Rex, which could still hold things with its small arms or lift itself up, the arms of the Carnotaurus had no function at all. The most striking feature was the skull. With a length of 59.6 centimeters, it was proportionally shorter and deeper than any other carnivorous dinosaur. Horns protruded diagonally above the eyes, which of course gave the Carnotaurus its name. These horns were thick and conical, about 15 centimeters long and solid inside. Already in 1990, researchers suspected that around these horns, which were formed from the forehead bones, again keratin caves were located. Since this material fossilizes only extremely badly, we do not know exactly how long the horns of a living Carnotaurus really were. So it is quite possible that the keratin horns were considerably longer than the bones that are left today. The artist Lindsay Wakefield has drawn such a Carnotaurus. It is intended more as an interesting concept than as a realistic representation. For example, the neck muscles are very strong in relation to the rest of the body and therefore could carry a higher weight of the head. Absurdly big horns like some Asian water buffaloes have would be very impractical for a fast hunter, so short to medium-length keratin cavities are probably more likely. The strong neck and nape of the neck would of course also be able to withstand impacts. In many species today, horns and antlers are used for dominance fights within the own species, and maybe this was the case with Carnotaurus. Its neck muscles would be able to withstand collisions of two specimens running towards each other at about 20 km per hour. However, the skull would not have withstood this for long. It is therefore more likely that these animals did not ram each other, but pushed similar to the way bison did. In doing so, the horns are pressed against each other and then you push the opponent until one of them gives up. But there is also the theory that the horns were bent forward and used as a weapon. With such horns, the Carnotaurus could have impaled its victims with great speed. However, there is no other predator that has such a hunting method, which is why this theory is considered to be extremely improbable. More realistic are moderately long horns which were used for courtship or dominance fights within the own species. Size of olfactory bulbs in the ocular nerves suggest that Carnotaurus' sense of smell was much better developed than its visual perception. Because his eyes were turned forward to a certain degree, he could see binocularly. Which animals the carnivorous bull fed on is still quite controversial. By analyzing the structure of the jaws, it has been found out that the Carnotaurus was capable of quick bites but had a relatively weak bite force of 3,340 Newton. When catching smaller marsupials, the fast bite is actually more important than the biting power, which has been proven by studies on crocodiles. However, some researchers doubt that the biting force of Carnotaurus was really so weak. For comparison, 3,340 newtons is below the value of a gorilla but above the value of a lion. However, hunting small animals with fast bites would make sense, because finally the physique of the Carnotaurus was trimmed for speed and not for fighting power. This would have opened up a niche for this species to hunt small and nimble prey that would escape from the others. Due to the flexible jaws and the construction of the teeth, it could also hold small prey particularly well. Other scientists, however, assume the exact opposite and suspect that the Carnotaurus hunted particularly large animals in a similar way to Allosaurus, and slowly brought them down piece by cutting them. It is also possible that Carnotaurus used both hunting strategies to capture large sauropods as well as a variety of smaller animals. But there is one feature of this dinosaur's fossils that we have not yet looked at, and that is its skin. Carnotaurus was the first find of a large theropod in which the skin has survived relatively intact, in the form of impressions on the side on which the dead Carnotaurus was lying. Its skin consisted of a mosaic of 5 mm angular scales. In addition, a pointed predator and the most dangerous predator in its habitat, and that despite being was much smaller than other theropods known from the area of Argentina. But the reason is quite simple. The really gigantic carnivorous dinosaurs of Argentina, such as Mapusaurus and Giganotosaurus, became extinct some millions of years earlier. The strongest predator a Carnotaurus encountered in its time was therefore always another Carnotaurus. But now we come to the promised interesting fact. The portrayal of the two antagonists from Disney's dinosaurs has strongly influenced the public perception of this species, but as much as we all like this film, the film version of the Carnotaur does not correspond to reality. In direct comparison, you can see how massive and broad the Carnotaur was in the film, while in reality it was a slender and fast hunter. How did you like the film, and what do you think of the Carnotaur in general? Write it in the comments. See you in the next video.